Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. I hope you're well. So we're back on this third episode of Reborn podcast, and today I'm happy to receive Suchitra. So how are you?
Oh my God, I'm so excited to do this. I'm so excited to see you as a host.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here today, and it's amazing to having her today because she has a huge impact on women and an incredible journey. So I'm so excited about this interview.
Thank you for having me, Eva.
It's
Really, it's an
fine.
honor.
And can you introduce yourself and what you're doing to start this conversation?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Suchitra Sivasankaran. I am of Indian origin and I've been brought up in the Middle East in a beautiful city called Muscat. And I'm an engineer by trade, and I'm currently an entrepreneur who's building a brand in the mental fitness space. It's called Inside and Out. I'm also a coach. So, I guess life to me right now is a multi-hyphenate word. So yeah, that's a little bit of me in a nutshell.
Okay, great. And how was your childhood?
How is my childhood? So I grew up in Muscat, and my family is just my parents and my sister and me, my younger sister. I think we grew up in a very nice, like tight-knit household where, my dad had certain principles around eating meals together. We hung out a lot. We traveled a lot. We did a lot of things together as a family. So I think it was a lot of fun. And then growing up in Muscat, it was very like the childlike innocence lasted for a very long time. So I always related to like a Famous Five or a Secret Seven or a Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew. Like I had a lot of fun outdoors, lots of friends from different parts of the world because my dad was working for a cement company.
Oh.
So I really had, I think, a very nice childhood that lasted for a really long time in the sense of being innocent and staying childlike. One of the other aspects around that was that even though we were away from India, my dad's parents, my dad's side has a big family. And my dad's parents are very deep rooted in patriarchy per se. Like I think it's common around many parts of the world, but it's just that it was interesting as a child to experience it so strongly in my house because my mom is a good 10 years younger than my dad, and my dad and my mom got bullied a lot because they have two daughters and no sons in the house.
Okay.
And in the process, from a very young age, I would notice that my mom's way of handling that bullying was to play victim or cry. And my dad's way of handling it was to be very progressive and give my sister and me as many opportunities to be a human, not a woman or a man. And he kind of, I think, was working, if I look at it now, is working on himself to go beyond those gender biases, because we never felt at home that because we're women, we can't do something. But I always felt the pressure that they were going through because my mom and dad would have arguments because of that, or my mom would, look like I had to take care of her because she's, let's say feeling bad about something that's been told to her. And I'm kind of coddling her from a young age. Like I'm saying, don't worry, don't worry and things like that. And in the process, I think what it did to me is because my parents were standing up so much for my sister and me, you just felt this obligation that I have to make it, like whatever make it is, right? I just have to, because I had to make that pain worth it. And then I also felt watching what my parents were going through on like such a regular basis, I think I developed anger as a very big fuel to hit whatever I wanted to or to achieve whatever I wanted to in life. Like I was very driven with or being ambitious, but the fire underneath was aggressiveness or anger. And it's not that I realized it, but when I reflect, I do, that I think it became my way of achieving anything I set my mind to, and kind of, look at everything that played out. That from that early on, I went on to an engineering school. Then I went on to work in oil and gas. I kind of kept walking into also more male-dominated spaces or industries, just because I think it was a way for me to also prove that I can be anything I want, and gender doesn't define me in that sense. So that's how I would describe my childhood. I think it was a combination of feeling very safe, but at the same time feeling this fire to somehow prove to, I don't know, an invisible audience or the world that you can't tell me that I can't be something because I'm a woman, so that's how I would describe it.
Okay, I get it. So you grew up in a very patriarchal environment.
Yes.
And you experienced it as a little girl with anger, with a way to prove to everyone that you can make it.
Yes.
So how did it shape your mindset, like growing up as a woman?
So, I think one of the key things was to never actually allow being woman limit me. So now when I look back, I look at it as a good and bad thing, because I think I dumbed down a lot of feminine energy related aspects to women, like aspects to us. I think I dumbed down a lot of those natural instincts because I looked at it as a hindrance to me making it. At the same time, I also became like a mascot for women to be whatever we want to be, because I think I was doing a lot of path-breaking things, which was inspiring other women to give themselves permission to do that. But I felt like internally and externally, it was like a war, because internally, I am imbalancing myself by not honoring the feminine energy within, because I was tapping too much into my masculine energy. But externally, I was able to achieve things that probably I didn't see many examples of. And I was able to inspire women who were struggling to give themselves permission to do those things. So it became like this constant war, where the inner and the outer are somehow not able to find a balance, because you are projecting and inspiring, but the internals are feeling imbalanced and conflicted, that I'm not really honoring being a woman, right? But on the outside, I'm projecting like I am honoring being a woman. So I think that was a struggle that I never recognized until I started to work on myself.
Okay.
But that's how it affected me, where I think I was able to outward in really live differently. But what was the dialogue inside was kind of ugly, I think.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing me that.
Yes.
And how did you decide to become an engineer?
So one thing, Eva, you have to know is I am Indian. And it's like the time that during my generation, I'm a lot older than you. And during my generation in India particularly, or just Indian culture, doesn't matter where you grew up, you had a few already predestined options. You're either going to be a doctor or an engineer or a chartered accountant or a lawyer.
Okay.
And if you don't pick any of these, I don't want to use any foul language, you're just a loser. Basically, you're a failure if you don't be any of these. And so one thing that worked in my favor, because I wasn't thinking outside of this box, was I was really good academically. I was always a topper. I was great in math and physics, and I loved coding. And I was kind of I was very, what is the word? I was very excited about school, and I was really good at academia per se. And so it became a natural thing for me to say, I'm going to be this, that, or that. But I idolized my dad a lot, and he's an engineer, and I kind of saw a lot of what he did and stuff. And so I think I just set my mind to saying that's what I'm going to be. And the time that I was entering school, everything around digital, computer science, electronics, electrical, all of that was very like the thing to be in. And I was doing really well at math and coding in school. So I just decided, that's the direction I'm going to go. It was honestly a no-brainer. It's just how I chose the school was a very funny incident, because when I was really young, around 11 or 12, again, my dad's dad, we were back home in Chennai for a summer break. And I remember one of my cousins, so the school that I went to for engineering is like a really difficult school to get in. It's kind of similar to say going to Harvard or MIT, the same kind of league. And
which school is it?
It's called the Indian Institute of Technology. Okay. And just cheap thrills, Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Google, he graduated from that school. Okay. But it's really difficult to get in. And there's a lot of pride, because people in there, I wouldn't put myself even there to say there's some really incredible intelligence that you find amongst the pool of people that go to this school, okay? So my granddad is just casually telling my dad that one of my cousins, who is much older than me, he was the only one everyone was rooting for, that he's going to go to the school. And somehow during the entrance exams or whatever, he kind of, I don't know, he fell ill, or he just, somehow it just wasn't his day. And so he didn't make it. And so my grandfather was commenting to my dad, like, that's it. There's going to be no one else in this family that's ever going to make it to an Indian Institute of Technology. Okay. And I was maybe 12, barely, you know, and I heard him, and already I had a lot of anger towards them for really putting my parents in this place like they're not enough just because they don't have boys. They didn't birth boys in the house. And so it planted a seed, you know, that not just that I'm going to do engineering, but where I'm going to do it. And it was just my answer to him, because he said no one else in this family is going to make it. And I'm like, I'll show you. It's going to be me. So that's really how I decided engineering and with school, honestly. It was just culture and a little bit of a personal, emotional, I think, like a hit to my ego. Like, how dare you? I'm here. Don't you see me?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really how it went.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you proved to the world that you can make it.
Yeah, true. I mean, it was nothing to do with what I really loved. I think, in that time and age, we didn't even get asked those questions. Like, my parents didn't ask me, what do you want to do? What do you love? And all of that. You had a playground to play within, and you had to choose within the playground. And I picked this, but I just got fueled to go to a place because I was offended, and I felt that just because I'm a woman, he doesn't even think I have, the ability to aspire to want to go to a school like that. And so that's how I made this decision.
Okay, amazing. And now I know as well that you were diagnosed with a burnout in 2019. True. And it got a huge impact on your journey, actually.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this part of your life?
Yes. I mean, I used to say that it was one of the darkest chapters of my life, but honestly, I think it's probably one of the bestest things that happened to me. But, I did not know that burnout was a clinical diagnosis. I mean, we always say, right, oh, I got burned, oh, I'm burned out, I'm tired. Like, I always thought it was a glamorous way of saying I'm exhausted. But just prior to being diagnosed, I was falling ill, physically ill, continuously for about a year. And before that, I was showing a lot of behavioral changes. Like, I'm an ambivert. I like to hang out with people. I like to be alone. I get energy from both. And I was then doing a job to build a team in a very cutting edge space in oil and gas. And I had to go to recruitment fairs. I had a team that was around 50, 55 people at work. And I just didn't want to see people. And I knew that it's strange, but I dismissed it because I think somehow the wiring is you've come to a place in your life ticking off all the boxes and you tell yourself, so you're tired now? What's happening? I think my inner voice could keep telling me that, what am I exhausted for? Am I not supposed to go to the next level? You got to go, you got to hustle, you got to do this. And this is the dream. This is what I wanted. And so I underplayed a lot of the emotional behavioral changes, like becoming recluse, feeling exhausted. I would sleep sometimes for 12 hours and still feel oh my God, really? I'm so tired. And then I had this energy of being a little bit restless and edgy all the time. I became cynical. I started asking all these existential questions why am I in oil and gas? What is this doing for the world? What's the point of what I'm doing? And who am I? What is my purpose? And so I felt very alone in this, whatever was happening to me. And I still chose to ignore and immerse deeper into work. But then I started to fall physically ill. So at some point, that's a good reason to go to a doctor, right? So then I went to a doctor for a full body check and everything was just fine. So then I confided in the doctor and then she said, let's do a full hormone panel check. And it turned out that the hero ingredient was cortisol. And my cortisol, which is the stress regulating hormone, it indicated that I'm operating in fight or flight, which is why doing anything normal was taking away from my energy. I was continuously acting or behaving like I'm under extreme stress. And so what I learned from her is if I'm not going to change my lifestyle to be more mindful, I will go to a place of chronic stress, which would then mean that I would need medication and external help. And I would struggle with simple decisions if I continued like that. If you said, Suchi, do you want coffee or tea? I'd be I don't know, choose whatever you want, because your mind thinks you're just all the time, every decision is a stressful one. So that scared me. And that's when I took a moment and I was like, how did I get here? Because I don't think I even was present with myself and living so much in autopilot. I think I didn't understand how I got there. So I just, thought about it for a while, and I decided that, in the game of life or the journey of life, if I don't even know how I'm actually impacting my own well-being, then what's the point of all this? So I decided that I do want to take some time out to understand what is happening with me. And so I decided to take a sabbatical because, I worked for this incredible oil and gas company called Schlumberger, and they have this benefit called personal development leave. And I'd never taken it in about 13 years of me working there. So I decided, why don't I? And I took the sabbatical and I said, I'm just going to show up for myself and find out what is all this about.
And how was it?
And then I walked into the sabbatical, and the first month was great. It was like December of 2019, I think, or November, December of 2019. And I basically, it was Christmas, all the festive season, and I just slept a lot, and it felt so good. It felt like, yes, I've made the bestest decision possible, because it was very scary to make it. And when I made it, then I was like, yeah, pat on my back, this is really great. And in Jan, once life began and, business as usual, everybody's back to the rhythm of the grind, I suddenly started to recognize I wake up every day and I have literally no purpose. There's no agenda. I don't have a team to go to. I don't have objectives. I don't have structure in my day. I don't have to be at work. Literally everything that I'm used to that defines my day is now gone. So I started to have this recurring feeling of it almost felt like being in a depressed state, because I was just every day thinking, what am I doing? What is my life? What am I doing? And then it just got darker and darker. And I really gravitated towards going back to work. So I kind of spoke to my mentor and I said, I had taken this break, but I don't think it's going well. I think I'm ready to come back. And he didn't know that I was diagnosed with a burnout. I hadn't told many people, because that was another thing. I didn't want people's opinions to stop me from taking the sabbatical. So I kind of tried to keep it very minimal. I made the decision, I told the few closest people in my circle, and that was it. So then I didn't explain to him, and he was like, that's great. And so he got me an opportunity right away. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I got excited. I'm like, I'm going to be free from this place. And then I came home and I just felt the struggle of all my pain, that my physical exhaustion, that how I can't even imagine myself waking up on time, being back in the structure, going in that rhythm. And that's when I realized that I'm actually not well. I'm not feeling well from a neuroscience, from a hormonal, from an internal place. So then I had to have a conversation again to tell him, what, this is what I'm actually going through. And I think I just don't feel comfortable in the unknown. And so I have to tell you the truth and say, I can't take this role. I need to dive deeper. And so I said that, and then he said, why didn't you tell me this before? And it was a great conversation where I don't think I'd been that vulnerable with anyone at work. And then I decided, okay, now I'm really onboarding the sabbatical. I've constantly offloaded or launched products and projects at work. I'm just going to call this Project Suchi. And I don't know where to begin, but I'm going to have a calendar full of things to do that's just going to be with me. And that's where I began. I started with a simple thing of creating structure. So I would be wake up at 5 a.m. every day. It's a meeting in my calendar. As I wake up, I catch the sunrise. I go to the exact same coffee shop. I grab my newspaper because I like reading physical paper. And I told myself that if I was meeting Eva or was meeting a colleague at work, I wouldn't cancel. So if it's just me and I keep canceling on myself, then what am I wiring my brain that it means me as a attendee is not worthy. I'm not worth it for me to say, oh, it's only you, Suchi, like I don't need to attend this meeting. So I wanted to flex that part of my mind to say, it doesn't matter, it's me. I am foremost the most important to myself. So if I'm attending this meeting, I have to be there. And so I did that for a lot of things. I noticed that I had a lot of worry in the unknown. So I scheduled like an hour, 2 hours every day to worry. And it's on my calendar. It's a meeting with me where I have full freedom to worry for 2 full hours. And then I set up a training, a gym, a fitness session with a coach. So now I have to stop worrying, get ready, and move my body and go to the gym. So I kind of structured the day like that, where now I have a plan, I have a calendar, I have meetings. They're mostly with myself. But I also wanted to create that repetition and consistency that I am building my self-worth, because what I understood when I took the sabbatical is that I actually don't know who I am without my job title and salary. It felt so uncomfortable because I actually didn't know how to define my identity outside of my work. And that's why I was like, that makes no sense. So if you took away my job, I really don't know who I am. When it should be the other way around, right?
Yeah.
You are you know exactly what you bring to the table, and it could be a gazillion other jobs or several other passions. They all make you, but I can't have one external thing defining me. So this is how, I got into the journey of looking inward, and then one thing led to another, and then I started to feel this shift inside. And I was like, what is this feeling? And I was like, I think this is happiness. And so so I had this realization, I tend to control a lot of things in life. I like to plan ahead. I'm very organized. And I wasn't doing any of those things. I was just organized around going inward. And so I realized that happiness has always been an inside job. And I think that's how this chapter unfolded,
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this deeper part of your life. And after that, you founded Inside and Out.
Yes.
So, which is a mental fitness hub to help women to overcome burnout and pressure, I think, to flourish.
Yes.
So how was the beginning of this new entrepreneurship journey?
The absolute beginning, I would say, was like pretty bad. I think it was quite, not bad, but quite rough in the sense that I knew that I landed on an ID because it was based on my journey. I definitely knew I saw the light in taking my pain and making it my purpose. And I knew I could do it because I've always been in tech and I wanted to build a tech solution. But at the same time, this was my journey. So I was like, it's marrying who I used to be into who I'm becoming. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. But, how you operate in a corporate environment and how you operate as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of mindset differences,
I agree.
So I would say initially it was the ID that was excitedly born, but I got into things like the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the worry about, oh, my life today is so comfortable. When I walk into this journey, then where's my source of income going to be from? And then things like, what am I going to tell people who know me from the oil and gas and engineering world, like that I've suddenly walked into mental fitness and people are going to think. And also at that time, today it's a lot more comfortable to speak about these things, but at that time it still felt like this is very woo-woo, or like you've gone cuckoo, or like something's happened to her. So I was a bit even thinking those things, like what are people going to think, or how am I going to say this out loud? And then thinking about, the fact that I'm going to go into a different space, like a very different industry. So that I think the fear of failing was very crippling for me. Like I just felt that I can't let that happen, because being brought up in an Indian household and the way my parents did, it really felt like failure was not an option. It was just something that, we don't have that choice. But it took me a long time to get past that, because that led me to still staying like a perfectionist, an overthinker, overanalyzer, over-worrier. And I just stayed. So all these sabotaging voices, they kept me there for a very long time. So when you say start, I wanted to say I had the idea and I didn't start for a long time because my mind was playing all these fun games, and I realized that I never saw them in my corporate life. And then now I paid attention to how they're basically holding me back. And I needed to work on those to get to a place where I was like, that's it. Like, we're going to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. You took the decision.
I took the decision, yes. So that's how I would describe my start. Very anticlimax that I didn't start. My start was that I didn't start because I had a lot of these voices in my head that it was more about being worried about the unknown. That's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you so much. And what kind of challenges did you encounter at the beginning of the creation of Inside and Out when you started?
So I think once I started, then I would say that one of the first few challenges was to find the right talent for me to start working in the areas that I wanted to, because I wanted to start a community in the digital space and in social media, and I was not a social media person. And then I wanted to like a little bit bring in someone to help me understand myself as a founder, to build a brand identity, to build a brand book, to get the name for the brand. So I focused a lot on foundationally building the brand because I wanted to speak like one language in one tone with clarity. And I found that I think the idea was in my head, but it was, kind of spread, and I would go in many different directions. And I think being your own baby, like you just wanted to be all the great things. So I wanted to tone that down, and I decided that I would rather find the people who are great in those spaces to guide me, to assist me. So finding those right people to eventually land on, okay, what is my brand ethos? Like, what is it that I want to stand for? What's our mission statement? What's my vision statement? How am I building this community? Who am I talking to? I spent a little time to do all of that because I felt that once that was clear, then it just became much easier to build on top of that. That's how I began. And then I think it was just really about consistently being in action, like not being worried. There's so many places, like things like, writing content, or like putting my face on camera, or like what is a marketing slogan, and what am I going to do about PR, and like how am I actually putting a pitch deck together for investors. All of those things I would think about, but before I would overthink and not do anything. Now I was like, what, one step at a time. We keep moving forward, and when we get there, I'll automatically find the right pieces that have to come together. So I just moved, after I built the foundation, I moved on to just being in action. So I just created like, what are the first things that have to happen for MVP 1? And I'm going to go and hit them, and I'm going to keep being in action. Then I'll go to the next, then I'll go to the next. So I really had to talk myself out of that overthinking and perfectionism and all of those dialogues and say, no, we're just going to do it. Just do it. And then I'll keep iterating based on wherever I get stuck or wherever I feel I don't know what to do. And then somehow it works. Like people show up, the universe conspires with you, like things show up at the right time. As long as you're hustling in the right direction and making the effort and moving the needle. This is what I would say I went on. Once I truly started, this is how the journey panned out,
Yeah, amazing. I love this mindset because I think you don't have to wait for things to be done. Like, you have to take the step.
Exactly.
And you will see after.
Absolutely.
Don't wait for the perfection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I think. And so you have coached more than how many women, actually?
Women, if you say women, maybe at this point I would say maybe 65 to 70 women.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a lot. That's a good beginning.
Yeah.
Including me, actually.
Yeah, true.
So actually, with the women that you have coached, what kind of obstacles you think women have in their life, like face in their lives?
Yeah. If I wasn't, I would say, yes, there's a varied range of topics that generally I have covered depending on the age and the stage and where you are in life, right? But if I was to summarize for you, I would say that, I think in the end, I feel like everyone, and more so the high achieving woman today, you're eventually working towards that very rare combination of where success meets happy. Like they have to be a marriage, because I think women, I mean, we not women per se, but we already have all these external frameworks of what success looks like. And so a lot of people now, you're going and you're ticking them off, and then you reach a place where you're either like feeling lost, or you're empty, or you're having this inner feeling of like there's got to be more, or I'm lacking clarity, like I this doesn't feel like I'm satisfied, or I'm feeling good inside. And I think it's just because success isn't just money and power. It has to be in combination with your inner blueprint. Like it has to be, your success should be in alignment with your blueprint, right? And so I think that's what I would say as an overarching umbrella. I find like a lot of the high achieving women today, it's in the end, you're doing work to go to that place where success meets happy. It's a very like a rare combination, because you see like a lot of hugely successful people are depressed, or hugely successful people are lost, or you're lacking purpose. But you find, in fact, there's a study, that says that like top leadership is very aware of what an organization's purpose is, right? Like what's the purpose of this company? But the leaders themselves don't have an idea of their own purpose, which is why you're doing well financially, you're in a powerful place, but you feel completely like disconnected with yourself. You feel this lack of contentment, of lack of being happy. And I find that this is a common thread. You could get there in different ways, like through work on relationship, work on money, work on body. But in the end, that's what you're aspiring for. That very nice, sweet spot, that where you're also successful, you're also happy, and now you're kind of living fully alive. Like you're thriving. You're not just like, oh, I have everything, but I have nothing. Like there's that feeling. That's definitely, I think, one, I would put it as a general umbrella. But the other thing that I would say is, I think, we're universally obsessed with love. Like it's just, you're obsessed with love, right? I mean, we are. So I think we're universally obsessed with love. I find that it's a very common, second topic that's always there, always existent. And the only thing I find with, playing this part of co-conspiring with somebody to guide them to look inward is that we're always talking about the one, and we're always talking about, the other person that's involved in the equation of relationship, partnership, love. But I find the real magic is when you go in, when you look within to see how are you showing up and what are you bringing to the table. So that's where I would say that the conversation is always around love, but I enjoy the process of flipping it back into you. Because when you're learning to fill your cup, when you're learning to unpack the things that, aren't really serving you, when you're learning to relearn the things that are your strengths and what you bring to the table, then you attract automatically in the same wavelength. You easily you're vibrating in that energy that is very easy to attract people in the same space. So that's what I do. But I feel love as a subject, it's just, I think we're all universally obsessed. So it's a very common space that I'm always finding is a conversation with all the clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I agree. And after that, so as a coach, in your opinion, because I see it too, why do women have a more complicated relationship to money than men? Things like this.
So all of these like limiting negative beliefs about money, right? So basically now money has a very negative connotation or a negative energy.
Yeah, exactly.
So already you're setting up the child's mind or the girl's mind to say this is a bad thing. Like there's something bad associated with speaking about money or like thinking about money, right? But I also think that it's a fact that there's a huge amount of parenting where at a certain point in your life, parents choose to not talk to girls about, what does it mean to be financially free? Or what does it mean to be able to invest your money in various ways to be able to build your own sense of independence? What does it mean to actually find a partner that is based on healthy love and connection, and not on, the fact that you're depending on them, and then later on your sense of freedom is lost? These are not conversations we have from a young age with girls. Parents automatically, you tend to have these conversations with boys because boys are more in these spaces, right? Like, you're going off to become, like, say, an investment banker, working in a financial institution, you're maybe a tax accountant, like, you're encouraged to take on a lot of these professions. But women, you really have to have the right parenting, the right setup to say, I am going to go be that. But majority of the household with girls, parents, it's not parents, but it's just culture. You don't talk to your girl child about money and money management. And then you grow up and you reach a place where when you go to work, like, you're building a career, right? First of all, you're not paid as much as a guy for the same
That's
job.
true.
Second, if you land up asking for money, then people slot you as somehow that, wow, that's just so unladylike, or that's not a nice behavior. You don't ask, or you don't talk shop. You don't talk about money. It's not a womanly thing to do. And then we have our limiting beliefs around money being evil, and money being, too much of money doesn't make you happy, and all of that. So we also have those. And then finally, when you come to the point where, okay, what do you do with the money you're making? You have complete lack of knowledge because you have been discarded from all the conversations that talk about how to save money, how to build wealth, how to invest, how to kind of do different things with your money that allow for you to be able to feel comfortable with it as a resource that's powerful. So I think this is why women have a different relationship with money, because then when you are put in the place where you have to start watching your money, it's too overwhelming. Like, all of the jargon is just like, what are you talking about? And you don't want to get into those conversations because you feel scared and you feel like, I don't understand any of this. I don't know what they're talking about. And so you exit the room, you exit those conversations. But it starts from a very young age because we are not considered that we should be speaking to. And also, our duty or role is to be married, is to be a mom, is to play all of those domestic project manager roles. So you're even more disconnected from money talk. And I think that's why we have this, uncomfortable relationship, because when we finally come into the awareness, it's a little too late and we get overwhelmed. But that being said, it's never late and it's about time. And I think all women should talk money, and mums and dads should talk to their kids, girl kids, from a very young age on the practical lessons of how to make money, how to save money, how to invest your money, what else to diversify with your money, because financial freedom is an essential. It's an essential to live a good life. Yes.
Totally, I agree.
Yes.
And it's the goal, actually.
It's the goal. Yes. Really. You want to find the love of your life and all those good things, but I think if you're not financially independent, it completely lopsides the equation and on a lot of other things that are important to you.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And finally, to end this interview, can you share with us a mantra or a quote that helps you to move forward every day?
Yes. So I'm just going to share with you this is my current chapter in life. Okay. So I am in a place where I have the perfectionism and the overthinker in me. I've decided that, yes, they served me in my past life. They were good to me. I needed them in an analytical engineering world. But now I'm like, look, we need to amicably separate. I am not interested in this relationship anymore. So I'm kind of divorcing from perfectionism and I'm working at it. So I have come to this place where now I remind myself whenever my brain overthinks or goes back into that perfectionism place that I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to surrender. Meaning I'll just do my part and then surrender the sense of control and, how are they going to receive it and what's going to happen. Instead, based on feedback, I'll iterate again. Then I'll do it and then I'll iterate again. So I've come to this place where I've stopped wanting to listen to those voices and I just want to do it. So I just do what I have to do and then I surrender. So, there's a great philosophy called amor fati. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but amor fati just means love your fate. So my current phase is that, Eva, where I don't want to go backwards, I don't want to go forwards. I just want to accept my journey as is, at the pace that it is. I want to keep moving forward, and I want to love all of it. The pain, the good, the hard, the difficult. I just want to love all of it. And that's where I'm at. Amor Fati.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here for this interview. It was really inspiring and enriching for me. I learned a lot of things. I think the others too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And thank you for being here with us today. It was a pleasure. And I see you very soon for next episodes.